Billy Sims was a slasher. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri, Sims grew up with baseball aspirations and didn't show an interest in football until 8th grade when he moved to Hooks, Texas to live with his grandmother. Despite the late start, Sims quickly excelled, rushing for 100 yards or more in 38 consecutive games at Hooks High School. In his 3 years of varsity football, Sims rushed for over 7,700 yards and was heavily recruited by multiple colleges, including Oklahoma, whose head coach, Barry Switzer, had seen Sims play on Friday nights 5 to 6 times and envisioned him in a Sooners uniform, thriving in his wishbone offense. The only issue was that Sims had already committed to play at Baylor, but that wouldn't stop Switzer, who took the unorthodox route of calling Sims at his job during halftime of an Oklahoma game to persuade him. During that conversation, Switzer promised Sims he would both get a degree and win the Heisman Trophy if he changed his mind. Shockingly, the unconventional and extreme measure resonated with Sims, and he would be convinced. He decommitted from Baylor and packed his bags for Oklahoma. Full of hope, Sims would be in for a rude awakening as he learned Switzer had made similar promises of a degree and a Heisman Trophy to incoming freshmen Thomas Lott and Kenny King. Sims ended up being buried on the depth chart and barely saw the field his freshman year. Things would only get worse his sophomore season, when he suffered a season-ending injury in the first game, forcing him to redshirt. The once highly recruited prospect was no longer receiving attention from coaches and seriously contemplated quitting football. However, Switzer would again work his magic and managed to reinstill confidence in the once coveted star. Billy returned the following season, but injuries continued to plague him, and he only managed to gain 413 yards and score 6 touchdowns. Officially looking like a bust, not many could have anticipated the turnaround that was in store. Finally healthy his junior year, Sims was able to regain form and remind the nation why he was so highly touted coming out of high school, rushing for 1,762 yards and 20 touchdowns. He also averaged an absurd 7.6 yards per carry, led the nation in scoring, and captured the Heisman Trophy he was promised. Sims would return his senior year and nearly won the Heisman Trophy again, rushing for 1,506 yards and 22 touchdowns. He once again led the nation in scoring and was incredibly efficient, averaging a staggering 6.7 yards per carry. While he did place second in Heisman voting, it was clear that Sims was the best player in the nation, and that would be reflected by the Lions drafting him first overall in the 1980 draft. Once in Detroit, Sims picked up right where he left off and would have a debut for the ages, racking up over 200 total yards and scoring 3 touchdowns against the Rams. A vocal leader, Sims would drag the Lions out of the depths of mediocrity and will them into contention, helping them improve from 2-14 to 9-7 in just his first season. He went on to win Rookie of the Year and would set the record for the most scrimmage yards by a rookie in Detroit Lions history with 1,924 yards, a record that still stands today. He also co-led the league with 13 rushing touchdowns, was voted a second-team All-Pro, selected to the Pro Bowl, and had what would be a career-high 51 catches for 621 yards and 3 additional scores. While the Lions would slightly regress in Sims' second year and miss the playoffs again, Billy would only get better, improving both his rushing total and yards per carry. His 1,888 scrimmage yards and 15 total touchdowns earned him a first-team All-Pro selection, as well as another Pro Bowl nod. By year 3, the stars would finally align, and Sims would lead Detroit to their first playoff berth in 12 years, despite the season being shortened by a players' strike. While he put up a respectable 87 yards in their wildcard matchup against Washington, he and the Lions would largely be shut down by the eventual Super Bowl champs. In year 4, Sims would once again lead Detroit to the postseason, and his 140-yard, 2-touchdown effort were nearly enough to knock off Joe Montana and the heavily favored 49ers. But a missed go-ahead 43-yard field goal with 11 seconds left would stop them in their tracks. This would unfortunately be Sims' final playoff appearance, as he would suffer a catastrophic knee injury in Week 8 of the following season. A game in which he set the then all-time rushing record in Detroit Lions history with 5,106 yards. Sims attempted to rehabilitate his knee and make a comeback, however it was too much to overcome, and he would ultimately be forced to retire in 1986. Even though his career was cut short, he still has the second most rushing yards in franchise history behind Barry Sanders. A 3-time Pro Bowler and 2-time All-Pro, Sims' career ended at the height of his powers. Had he played another 4 or 5 seasons, I strongly believe he would be in the Hall of Fame today. I want to thank you for watching, and I would love to hear about whether or not you think Billy Sims deserves to be in Canton.